Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Before we start with our today's questions, we have a small announcement. BYJU'S IAS is conducting BYJU'S National Scholarship Test, which is scheduled to be conducted on 23rd of January 2022. How do you register? Follow the link given in the description box below. Give the necessary information and you would stand a chance of winning some attractive scholarships. Let's get started and look into the first question. Consider the following statements with respect to public services. According to Article 310, members of the Defence Services, the Civil Services of the Centre and the All India Services, or persons holding military posts or civil posts under the Centre or Civil Services of a state hold office during the pleasure of the President. A civil servant cannot be dismissed or removed by an authority subordinate to that by which he was appointed. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the public services. Let us try and understand what are these options. When you look into the first option says, according to Article 310, yes, members of the different services, this is right. The Civil Services of the Centre and the All India Services, this is right. Persons holding military posts, this is right. Civil posts under the Centre, this is right. But Civil Services of a state does not come under the pleasure of the President, but instead the Civil Services of a state comes under the pleasure of the Governor. Since this part of the statement is wrong, the answer to this would be 2 only. What is this article speaking about? The article says the centre is planning to bring changes to the Indian Administrative Service Cadre Rules of 1954. What does this mean? As of now, we have something called as the centre deputation. What is a centre deputation? You have IAS officers who are posted at the state level. If these IAS officers have to work at the central government, this will require the permission from the state government, where the central government has to take the permission from the state government. Only after taking the permission, these IAS officers who are working in a specific state cadre could be deputed to the central government, where they would be working for the central government for a prescribed number of years. This is what the current rule says. So the central government is planning to bring changes in the rules such that they need not have to take the approval of the state governments, but instead these officers working at the state governments can be directly taken for the central deputation. This is where you have the state authorities, state governments opposing this move. We will have to wait and watch what will happen. Once we have this particular rule change, we can take this article in an elaborate way. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. The eastern swamp deer is only found in Assam. The IUCN status of Barasingha Rucervus duacelli is near threatened. Which of the above statements are incorrect? Since it is asking for the incorrect statement, the answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of eastern swamp deer. When it comes to the swamp deer, which is also called as Barasingha, this has 3 subspecies. One is what is called as eastern Barasingha, which is nothing but the eastern swamp deer. Then we have hard ground Barasingha, and the third that we have is the wetland Barasingha. So we have 3 subspecies when it comes to the Barasingha, and our focus is only on eastern swamp deer. When it comes to the eastern swamp deer, yes, it is found only in Assam. So the first statement would be completely right, and the IUCN status of Barasingha is vulnerable and not near threatened. What does this article say? This article currently goes on to say that there is a drop when it comes to the eastern swamp deer, and the numbers have been depreciating. The numbers are going down, and as a result, the government will have to take action plans, suitable plans, so that it can increase their numbers. And this is in specific focus to the eastern swamp deer or the eastern Barasingha. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section which is the smallest of the subspecies in the Barasinga, which is the largest among the subspecies of the swamp deer. Please put it on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to Denison barb, which of the following statements are correct? It is a mysterious frog species endemic to Western Ghats. Its IUCN status is endangered. The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a mention of Denison barb, which is also called as Miss Kerala. So remember, Denison barb is a fish. It is also called as Miss Kerala. Red line torpedo barb, it is also called as rose line shark as well. Its IUCN status, yes, is endangered. So if you look into the question, it is not a frog species, but instead it is a fish, and its IUCN status is endangered. So the answer to this would be 2 only. Now if we are speaking about this particular fish, it is endemic to the state of Kerala as well as Karnataka, and at the same time this happens to be found in the pristine water in the highly oxygenated headwaters, which means it is intolerant to the accumulation of the organic pollutants. So it mostly lives in those waters which is pristine in nature, and because it is also used in aquarium trade, it is also used in pet collection, its numbers are depreciating over a period of time, which is why it is endangered. And you also have a proposal made by the Government of India under the Wildlife Protection Act Amendment Bill of 2021, where it is planning to introduce these fishes as part of Schedule 1 of the wildlife protection. We have to wait and watch whether the government is for sure about implementing it. As of now, it's a proposal, and if this comes to implementation, we would have this fish as part of the Schedule 1 of the wildlife protection, primarily because of the aquarium trade, primarily because of the pet collection, and their numbers going down and depreciating over a period of time. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements are correct about National Commission for Safai Karamcharis? It is a statutory body of the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. It takes suo motu notice of all such matters that are in relation to the non-implementation of the provisions of the Manual Scavengers Act of 2013. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the PIB makes a mention of National Commission for Safai Karamcharis. What are the options? When we look into the first option, it says it is a statutory body. Most of us might get confused. Yes, it was a statutory body, but it is no more a statutory body. As of now, permission is being granted by the Government of India. Executive resolution is passed, and its term is being extended every 3 years. So you have the cabinet, you have the Government of India, which has now given a resolution where its term is extended for next 3 years. Initially, when it was formed, it was a statutory body, but after 2004, it is not a statutory body. So the NCSK was established in 1993. Initially, up to the period of 1997, it was again extended up until 2004, but from 2004, it is not a statutory body. The government gives the permission, and as a result, the first statement is wrong. The second statement is right because it has the power to take suo motu action. It need not wait for someone to take up the grievance. It can take on its own with respect to the non-implementation of the provisions of the Manual Scavengers Act of 2013. So what are the functions of the National Commission for Safai Karamcharis? The Safai Karamcharis are those people who are engaged or employed in the sanitation work. So it is this particular authority which will recommend specific programs of actions to the central government which aims to eliminate inequalities faced by the Safai Karamcharis with respect to their status, facilities and opportunities. They will address their grievances. Basically, they will come up with specific programs for the Safai Karamcharis, study what are the various issues faced by the Safai Karamcharis, evaluate the existing programs of the Government of India, make recommendations recommendations to the government of India, and ultimately if they have any specific grievance, they will investigate the same, give it to the government of India so that suitable actions can be taken up as well. It studies and monitors the working conditions of the Safai Karamcharis employed under the government, municipalities, panchayats, so on and so forth. After which reports will also be taken concerning Safai Karamcharis and will be presented to the state and the central government. It also monitors the functioning of the Prohibition of Employment as Manual Scavengers and their Rehabilitation Act of 2013. Now let's look into the next practice question. For election to the Lok Sabha, a nomination paper can be filed by anyone residing in India, a resident of the constituency from which the election is to be contested, any citizen of India whose name appears in the electoral roll of a constituency, any citizen of India. The answer to this is any citizen of India whose name appears in the electoral list of a constituency, which is C, and this happens to be a previous year question from the year 2017. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion happens to be Bosnia crisis. Let us try and understand what is this crisis that is unfolding in the country of Bosnia. Before that, let's understand some key facts. The capital and the largest city of Bosnia and Herzegovina happens to be its capital called as Sarajevo. And is it a landlocked country? No, it is not a landlocked country, and it has a narrow coast along its country lines where it is connected to the Adriatic Sea. These are the important pointers from the preliminary examination point of view. Now let us understand what is the crisis unfolding in Bosnia. To understand this, we also have to understand a bit of a background. What is the background? The first important factor is with respect to the Bosnia Civil War. What is this Bosnia Civil War? This happened back in the year 1992 up until 95. This was a civil war in Bosnia between Bosniaks, who are predominantly Bosnian Muslims, Serbs as well as Croats. So basically you have three ethnic groups, the Bosniaks, the Serbs and the Croats, who are the people involved in this ethnic war that happened between the period of 1992 up until 1995. So you had three sets of ethnic groups who fought amongst each other. This resulted in civil war during this period. During this period, there was a large-scale displacement and ethnic cleansing of the Bosnian Muslims as well as the Croats, and this was undertaken by the Bosnian Serb army as well as its paramilitary forces. So the target groups were the Bosnian Muslims as well as the Croats, and who were the aggressors? It happened to be the Bosnian Serb army. During this period, you had what is called as the Srebrenica massacre. This can also called as Srebrenica genocide. What happened during this period? During the period of 1992 up until 1995, during the month of July in 1995, under the commandership of the Serb army, they happened to kill as many as 8,000 Muslims, which is why it is called as Srebrenica massacre. It happened in the month of July in the year 1995. Men were killed, young boys were killed, babies were killed. In fact, there were widespread crimes that were even committed on women and girls, and they were subjected to a lot of violence. Since there was an ethnic violence brewing in the country of Bosnia back then, you had United States of America, you had NATO forces, you had multiple Western countries all came together under the leadership of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. They wanted to bring an end to the civil war that was happening in Bosnia. So what do? In the country of United States of America, in Ohio, they come up with what is called as the Dayton Accords. So what is Dayton Accords? There was enmity that was brewing in Bosnia among multiple ethnic groups. Bringing an end to the civil war within Bosnia is what is called as Dayton Accords, which was undertaken by NATO, multiple other Western countries. As per the Dayton Accords, what would happen? There would be creation of two semi-autonomic units. Within the country of Bosnia, you would have the Serbian majority called as Republika Srpska and the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which would be dominated by Bosniak Muslims and Catholic Croats. So basically, you would have within the country of Bosnia two separate semi-autonomous units. When it comes at the national level, the presidency will be held by three members. You will have a Croat, you will have a Bosniak, and you would also have a Serb within the chair rotating between the three. So there'll be two semi-autonomous units, and when it comes to the presidency at the national level, this will be shared on a basis where all the three ethnic groups will also share what is called as the presidency. In order to implement this Dayton Accord, what they also came up with is called as the High Representative for Bosnia and Herzegovina. So basically, you would have people who would be administering the implementation of the Dayton Agreement, and they will also preserve peace in this region. But what happened recently in the year 2021 in July, you had the High Representative come up with a law. This law said anyone who denies the Srebrenica genocide would be punished, and such a punishment would have a jail term of up to 5 years. So there was a genocide that was conducted in 1995. This High Representative did accept that there was a war crime, and anyone who denies in this particular country that such a crime was undertaken would be penalized with an imprisonment for a 5-year term. The minute this law was passed by the High Representative, it was not taken easily by the Serbs. So the Serbs was headed by Milorad Dodik. So he happened to be the Serb member of the presidency. He was the president of Republika Srpska from 2010 to 2018. He says that this was a fabrication and cannot be accepted, and we deny that there was a genocide that occurred back in the year 1995 and the Serbs were not the aggressors, and such a fact of 8,000 people being killed was a fabrication, says Milon Dodik, who happens to be the Serb member of the presidency. As a result of this statement made by the Serb member of the presidency, he also goes on to say that there are multiple institutions in this particular country, and these institutions currently are multi-ethnic, which also has the Bosniaks, which also has the Serbs as well as the Croats. So he goes on to say that the Serbs will be withdrawn from these institutions, and at the same time we will have our exclusive Serbian institutions including the army and the judiciary. He says that they would not want to listen to the orders of the High Representative, which means if he does not listen to the orders of the High Representative, it is a violation of the Dayton Accords, and as a result what could happen, there might be another crisis that would unfold in Bosnia, which is why we have United States of America, which has currently imposed sanctions on this particular person. Why? Because they are violating the Dayton Accords, and at the same time the European Union is also seeking consensus from its partner countries as well, so that they could also impose sanctions if approved by most of the countries. And at the same time what we could also see is destabilization in this particular region because of the multi-ethnic conflict that may happen, because these people may not accept the institutions in the country. They might also have their own army in the near future. They might pronounce their own individual judicial judgments as well, all of which may cause inconvenience in the country, and as a result it can destabilize the region. Is what is this Bosnia crisis all about? It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.